mental health counselor. And yes, this is what I do. I like to address difficult topics, sensitive topics, things that I think need to be thought about or challenged. And I am all about empowering women, men, kids to think for themselves and not to just accept things at face value, and to really do their part in kind of like listening to your own voice and finding what feels right for you. And we live in a very noisy world, and especially with social media, where we're constantly being told what to think, how to act, how to be an activist, how to, be nice, how to do this, how to do that. There is so much useful information, but it's also so overwhelming at times that I really, really push for people to just sometimes step back a little bit, unfollow, mute accounts, and just listen to yourself. And so we had a bunch of questions that you put a question box, and people
so my followers sent a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask you, and if you could answer and just help us sort this out a little bit. So my questions are a little all over the place, but I guess I'll start with the first one. Okay, so I guess overall, why do people have such a desire to bully other people? Can we assume that the bully has something going on? And if so, does that make it fair that they're bullying?
Right. So I guess the first thing we want to do is we want to define what bullying is, because I think a lot of the time people throw around that word. She's bullying me, she's such a bully, he's a bully. And I think sometimes bully is being used synonymously with being mean. And those are two very different things. There's mean people, right? Not nice people. And then there's bullies, right? So I think a lot of us are mean at times. I don't think all of us are bullies, right? Most of us have probably been bullied at some point by someone, but I think we all have a mean streak in us occasionally, but not all of us are bullies. So bullies are people who use physical or verbal aggression or even psychological aggression repeatedly over a period of time. And usually there's an imbalance of power also. So that means that I am more popular, influential, stronger than you. And I use it to basically torture you, right? It's very intentional, it's very targeted, and I don't let up. I just keep going, right? So that's a bully. They exclude people also, right? They intentionally leave people out. They try to humiliate, threatening you, stalking you. That's bullying. So sometimes we see bullying, there's relational bullying, right? Which we'll see a lot, which is starting rumors about people, gossiping, excluding people, manipulating relationships. Oh, don't be friends with her. Oh, I heard she talked about you, right? That kind of stuff. And then there's reactive bullying also, which is basically when people who are bullied themselves start taking it out on other people and then bullying. And then there's cyberbullying, which is kind of what we're going to talk about tonight, because that's happening on Instagram, which is using social media, phones, emails, texts, blogging, anything to bully someone. And cyberbullying, I think, is actually so dangerous because they've actually found in research that it's a lot easier to be mean and bullyish to people when you're hiding behind a screen, right? Because especially if you're just commenting on someone's post, you don't see them, right? So if you're hey, idiot, you don't see the person's face when they're whoa,
Right, and also people create fake accounts with no profile, and it's much easier because there's no way to identify the person. So it's even easier, I feel to just hate behind the screen.
Very much so. And there's no consequence, right? Because again, you don't see that you're hurting the person. There's no back and forth. They can't really stand up for themselves. And if they do, there's no emotion behind it. So you don't really feel bad, So, and I think people also, we see that people, their guard comes down a little bit. People are more likely to do things that they wouldn't do when there's no immediate consequence, right? And they've actually done studies where they put people in a dark room and give them a computer and even put a hood over their head. And they found that when there's a hood over the head or they're in a dark room, they're much less inhibited, and they'll write things or do things online that they wouldn't do if the lights were on, if their hood was off. They kind of feel protected that they can, the side of them can come out that nobody would ever see, and there's no consequence. So a lot of the time people are just not, they're just not thinking about it. They're not thinking, how is this going to affect a person? Because it's so immediate that they can just type whatever they want and that's it. And then they can log off and they don't care, right? So why do people bully? So the most common answer we know is like low self-esteem, right? That they don't feel good about themselves. But it's actually, there is some research that shows that people who have never been bullied themselves but are bullies, that they actually have high self-esteem and they're actually like popular and especially with kids, like they're the popular kid, they're the cool kid, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's low self-esteem, not always. It's for some people, they find that it's an effective way to get what they want, right? And they don't have those social skills to learn how to get things from people in a nice, respectful way. So they just bully and they're used to getting their way, right? So either they are bullying their siblings at home, they're bullying their parents, they're bullying their friends, they're bullying their spouse. They're just used to just going around and being mean to people and getting what they want. Sometimes they're feeling angry themselves, like they just hate life and they feel like it's unfair. And so they take that out on people. It helps them also to like establish a social dominance, like I'm better than you because I'm powerful than you, right? No, bullying is very much about power. Sometimes, like I said, when they're a victim themselves, so sometimes we'll see that someone who's bullied, like if a child is being bullied by their parents or by a sibling, or in a marriage, if someone's being bullied, then they're more likely to take out that aggression on other people. If they don't feel safe to react and stand up for themselves in their home, then they'll take it out on other people outside their home. So a lot of the time there is something going on behind the scenes with a bully, but it's not always necessarily that they have low self-esteem. They might actually feel pretty good about themselves, but you know, and it's just that they have always functioned this way. Like when I'm mean to people, I get what I want. So why should I do anything else? It works, you know?
But does this make it fair on their part? Like, is it fair? Like, I just, I mean, like, I know I told you, you know, when we were talking about my personal experience with bullying.
Yeah.
And I thank God, like, I mean, I have a, like, some sort of a platform, and there will always be, like, some people that send hate. And honestly, I never take that personal, but I was telling my followers today that throughout my entire elementary school and half of my high school experience, I did, you know, go through, like, really, really such a hard time because I was bullied. And I even switched schools, but the people from my old school knew the people from my new school, and they kind of connected, and like the bullying just continued, and it really was so damaging. And I went through a lot, and I had to work on myself to better myself through helps of others. And there was even a point in my life where I was so insecure about myself. It might sound funny, but I couldn't walk in the street without being on a phone call with somebody because
It
I
makes
just
sense.
couldn't. I couldn't be alone. Like I just,
Yeah.
you know. And thank God, like a lot of my followers messaged me today, and they're like, "Whoa! Like I would have never imagined like you were bullied. Like, you know, I would have never guessed." Which, like, I do actually have a question about if it affects, you know, if a child is bullied as a younger kid, does it
Yeah.
affect them in the long term? Does it affect them in the future?
So yes, there can be effects for bullying for sure for the bully themselves and for the person who's bullied. So it's not good for either one, right? So for people who are bullied, some of the things that can happen, and again, not necessarily, but it can affect like your physical health when you're older, your financial health, meaning like it's hard for you to hold down a job. It's hard for you to be in a relationship and trust people, which kind of goes back to when you were saying like you always had to be on that phone.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
so scary to like be with yourself and it was so unsafe and felt so uncomfortable. You always kind of needed that shield. So imagine going into a relationship like that and having that need for a shield and being afraid to be vulnerable and being afraid to let someone really like get to know you and care for you because you're so terrified that they'll hurt you. So some people have really difficult times having relationships. Sometimes we see antisocial behavior from people, right? So they become really difficult people as they're older. Um, there can be anxiety and depression, right? That they're more susceptible to it, suicidal thoughts and suicidal behavior. I mean, the good news is though, is that like if you are a victim of bullying, you can definitely like get help and support to overcome a lot of trauma. And it is a
For
trauma.
sure. It is. It definitely is. Like,
Yeah. And if it was really bad, then definitely it could be something that really scars you. That it's a pain that you like always kind of carry with you, but you don't necessarily suffer from it, you know? So
right.
it could be a pain that you're always going to remember and always talk about and always be so sensitive to. And it may even be that if you see a video of bullying, that it really brings up so much more emotion in you than anyone else. And again, that's like you kind of remember that pain yourself. So yeah, there's definitely stuff that can carry over into adulthood. And generally also like when people are bullies as their kids, like we don't really see that behavior changing when they're older. Sometimes it can if they get help. But usually kids that are bullies like turn into like adult bullies.
Yeah.
Unless they really like, are become self-aware and change. And they don't always grow out of it. That becomes like that stable interaction style that they're just always aggressive and pushy and mean. So that's it hurts people. It hurts the victim and it hurts the perpetrator. So yeah, that's how it turns into adulthood. And again, like usually if you meet a bully now, like an adult bully, you can be pretty sure that they were a bully themselves or that they experienced somehow. Again, that's how they were interacted with, that they think that's effective, you know? Yeah. So we said, so we were talking about how some of the other questions we got were how can we prevent bullying and Instagram hate through DM? And if we receive hate through Instagram, what can we do about it? So I'll tell you what I do. I mean, thankfully, I don't get bullied through DM. I don't really deal with this on Instagram, but this is what I tell people often. And this is even how I run my Instagram. If I get a message that I think is like aggressive or rude or argumentative, like that they're not asking me a question because they're curious or they want to have a discussion, but they're just being like negative and like trying to be insulting to me, I just don't answer it. I don't engage. I don't even say like, oh, what do you mean by that? I will not answer the message. So I'll delete it. I won't accept it. I won't read it. Nothing. I will not give any energy to it. So I tell people the same thing. If you get a message that you don't like in your DMs, you don't have to answer it. And if somebody puts a comment under your picture, that your post that you don't like, you can delete it. I don't care if they're like, hey, why are you deleting comments? Because it's my page and I can do whatever I want, right? I'm allowed to delete comments. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. And I don't have to keep your nasty comment there for everyone to see, right? That's called a boundary. And that's something that we want to teach kids if they're being bullied, right? That assertive boundary. And it's something that we as adults want to be using, an assertive boundary of, I will not tolerate any disrespect in my DMs on my page. If you want, you can make a disclaimer, right? Like I have a disclaimer that I put on my page. As a therapist, I'm supposed to, right? But everybody could do it. You can say, this is how I do my page, and I'm going to put it in my highlights and take a look. Like, just FYI, if I think that you're coming at me in a way that is offensive to me or triggers me because it brings up how I felt when I was a kid, or that I just feel like your tone is really disrespectful, I'm just not going to answer you, and I'm going to delete it. And if you are harassing my followers in the posts and in the comment section, I will delete you and block you, right? And I'll make it that you cannot comment on my posts, you know? Again, I think that that's something that we can do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a bad thing. That's being assertive. That's protecting ourselves. And that's making it very difficult for people to then come at us, right? And a bully likes that. A bully likes to see that you're vulnerable, that you're weak, that you're an easy target. So if I said that I don't care, if you're going to come at me and try to be aggressive, I do not care to interact with you at all, and I won't, then it's not fun for them, right? They're looking for that target. So that's what we want to do. We want to say, like, I'm not playing here with you. Like, you're going to have to find somebody else. And hopefully then they do go away.
Right.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, so basically, when I was talking to you before that, with this whole hating through Instagram and things like that, like what I want to tell you was that Instagram in general is curated, and everyone's life on Instagram looks perfect, but everyone knows that it's not perfect. So what I fear is that nobody knows what anybody is going through in real life, because I choose what I'm putting out there, and of course I'm going to choose to put the best moments of my life, right? Like anybody. I'm just saying, like, unless like you want to see an argument I'm having with somebody, you know, but that's not what Instagram is for. For a lot of people, Instagram is a place to get educated, to just relax, you know. But what I'm like fearful of is that the people that are going around hating won't know, what if their last comment is pushing a person over the edge? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so
Yeah,
scary to me. Like, I know this is a whole other topic, but like, I know tons of people that took their own lives away or just went into a state of just not a healthy state of mind, and everything triggered it. And people just think that they could throw their words around and not think about their words before they say it, but they're not realizing that there are severe consequences. And to
yeah,
me, that's just such a scary thought.
yeah. Well, I think that's something that we need to constantly highlight and talk about for sure, that
Right,
words have power and words have meaning.
right,
And that's something that we want to teach our kids, something that we want to be mindful of. And that's something that I talk about a lot also is like we need to be so aware of how we show up here on Instagram or social media. We need to like know how we like how we present ourselves, the words we say. And sometimes we tend to get passionate on Instagram, right? We're very passionate about something. We're feeling like very strongly about something, and sometimes we don't realize how we come off. That it could sound not bullying, but it could sound mean. Which again, sometimes people will then say, "Oh, she's such a bully," or "He's such a
right.
bully." Really, it's they're just speaking in a way that's very forceful or very aggressive, and it's not necessarily bullyish. But we do need to think about that how many times have we read in the paper or read in in media somewhere about this kid that people said things to them online, or this mother who was posting things and people were saying horrible things to her, or this celebrity who people were picking on her and bashing her, and
Yeah,
finally it's like too much for her, or commenting on her body or commenting on her relationships, or her kids were taken away and people were like, oh, you're a horrible mother, and then she ends up like taking her own life.
yeah.
It's really a horrible thing. So we do need to think about, if you don't have anything nice to say,
Don't
don't
say,
say it. Why
yeah.
do you have someone's post annoys you? You don't have to let them know. You could just ignore it. And
Right.
that's what I think also, like unfollow it,
Right.
swipe,
That's the beauty of Instagram. Like, literally, if you don't like content that's coming up on your feed, just unfollow. Like,
yeah, or mute it or ignore it or just roll right past it. Like you don't have to comment on it. You don't have to say anything. And if you think it's stupid or shallow or like wrong, again, if you're not coming from a place of like wanting to educate and have a discussion that's productive, then just don't say anything. Like you don't have to come and give your 2 cents to try to like show someone you're better than them or smarter than them. Like there's so many people on Instagram that I would love to be like, are you serious? But like it's not worth my time. And you know what? Let them have their thoughts and feelings. Like it's not, I know it wouldn't go anywhere and it would just frustrate me. So like, why would we even give that energy off to people? Like it just doesn't matter. So I think that we need to really like evaluate before we comment on something, like stop and think, what is the purpose of my comment right now? And I know I'm asking a lot to ask people to stop and think, because
I know
social media is built to make us impulsive, right? And keep
it
coming
is.
back and keep coming back. But stop and think and say, why am I posting this? Why am I commenting? What am I doing here in this space right now? How is it affecting me, and how is it affecting the person that I'm engaging with and I'm interacting with? And I think that if we are more sensitive and aware and intentional, then I think that we could make social media a better place. I think that Instagram is pretty tame. Like Twitter is known to be
Right.
like a horrible place for bullying. Like it's insane what goes on there. Like I'm scared of it. I don't think I would
Terrible.
ever
Yeah.
put myself in there.
Right.
Like never, ever, ever. Like even today, just with this post that I was writing about this challenge accepted thing, like it's so overwhelming,
Yeah.
all of the opinions and all of the feedback. And thank God, really nothing bad or horrible, like nothing that I couldn't handle, but people have a lot of opinions, and everybody wants to let you know what they're thinking and what they're feeling, and that you're wrong and that they're right, and that the way you're talking is mean or the way you're speaking is judgmental, even though they can't hear you and even though they don't know you. And everybody has an opinion. So I mean,
Everybody.
I guess
It's
I it's
like
it's
that's what
overwhelming.
it is. Like that's what life is about. I feel like no person is the same, and I don't think anybody has the exact same opinion. But like, there are so many things that I disagree with, but I don't love voicing my opinion. I'm not gonna lie, because I just prefer to stay neutral.
Right.
Just because everybody has their own opinion, and like sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Let's respectfully agree to disagree. You have your opinion and I have mine, and that's okay. We're allowed to have our own opinions. But when it gets to a point where like there's no way out. Like it's my way or the highway, and your opinion is wrong, and my opinion is right. Like that's when I think it just gets so messy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Chloe just said here, I always say it's okay to judge or have a rude opinion. Just keep it to yourself. Yeah.
Of
You can
course,
think whatever you want.
of
You can come
course.
on my page and say, Rachel, you're a therapist. You're horrible. Like, wow, I would never come to you. That's great. Keep that opinion to yourself and unfollow me. Like, you don't have to agree with anything I say. I don't have to convince you of anything. You can think I'm wrong, uninformed. That's fine. I'm not forcing you to stay on my page. And I think that's something that we all need to remember on Instagram. Like, nobody's holding you hostage. So if you don't like someone and you don't like what they're saying, then you don't have to be there. It's your choice. Like that's the beauty that you can curate and make it an echo chamber, make it only the people you want to hear. And if you don't like what's in front of you, then you can just leave it alone. And I think that if more people would do that, and that's the thing also, sometimes people think I should follow pages with diverse opinions because I'm going to learn more and it'll open my mind. But really what it does is it makes you more angry and it makes you more frustrated. And then it makes you more likely to then want to react in an aggressive, mean way, right?
I mean, do you think anything could? I mean, I feel like maybe sometimes things can stem from jealousy also.
So I think jealousy
Like,
sometimes, and I think sometimes insecurity, but I don't know if I think jealousy and insecurity get a really bad rap, right? I think jealousy is a human jealousy is a human emotion,
right.
and I think that's communication. So if I'm looking at someone's page and I'm feeling jealous of them, instead of being like, oh, I should just unfollow them, like I hate them, maybe I can ask myself, what is it that I feel jealous of? What do I feel threatened by? Like, do I feel like they're taking away my business? Do I feel like people like them better than me? Do I feel like they're a better hairstylist, therapist, makeup artist, clothing designer, whatever than me? Why do I feel that way? What is that? That's communication. So I don't know if it's a bad thing to say like, oh, you're just jealous. Okay, so if you're jealous, let's look at that. Let's talk. There's no shame in that, you know? So I think that saying like, oh, she's just a jealous person, like, all right, fine. People, we get jealous. Like, let's talk about that. And that kind of goes into that question that we have here about like hate in the business field and
Right.
dealing with competitors and making sure that there's healthy competition.
Yeah.
I really believe that there's like an element of like faith in your business, right? And you can for sure tell me how you feel about this. Like, there's enough business for everyone
For
to go
sure.
around,
You
and
know,
whatever.
it's so. Sorry. What?
Oh, no, no.
No. So it's very interesting, and I don't know if I have any fellow hair or makeup artists out there here on the live, but I feel like now that I'm in the business, you know, I feel like majority of us feel that like the clients that book us and we're booked for whatever we're booked for and that's it. But I do know because I speak to a lot of companies like there's a lot of competition in the world of like clothing and like accessories and things like that, like, and it's scary. And
Yeah.
it's just like, so I want to know like is there such a thing as creating healthy competition in the business world?
So I think that there should be, ideally, right? And I think people who are in that world could speak to this better just in terms of like the business end. But I know, like, I see so many of the businesses that I do follow that are in the clothing world, like, they really are so supportive of each other and, like, they wear each other's clothing and they very much go, everybody, like, can buy from everybody, you know? And again, I think it goes back to believing, like, you're going to have whatever is supposed to come to you, right? Whatever, like, parnasa, whatever income, whatever business you're supposed to have, it doesn't matter if someone else opens up a clothing line that
No.
also sells, you know, scarves or hats or like you will have what you are supposed to have. You know, there's endless clothing companies in the world. There's endless business to be had, you know. It's just about like you got to believe in yourself and you got to market yourself and again, I think being nasty and jealous and trying to take down other businesses that only hurts you, you know. I think it eventually does come out, right? People hear that about you and don't want to work with you. And again, like I just think that it goes a lot further in business if we're just like good people and we just support each other and we highlight other businesses and we're happy for other people and we say like, hey, they're doing well, awesome, like I hope that I do well too. Like that's not, it's stealing, you know, money that was intended for you. Like whatever is supposed to come to you will come to you. So I think that because people have this fear of like not having enough business, right? So they think every time this one has a sale and she's super successful. Oh, that means that now they're not going to buy from me. If you know, like the shopper mentality, the buyer mentality, like, you know that people always shop, they'll always buy, you
Yeah.
know, and when they're loyal to a brand, like they're going to be loyal to a brand, and that's it. And they can buy from so many different brands. Like, look in your closet, how many different places do you shop, you know? So there's business there. Like I said, there's
Yeah,
business for everyone. So
of
I think
course.
that if we just allow other people to be successful, we make space for us to be successful, you know? Um, and being happy for people, I think, is really important. So,
Yeah,
um,
like, you know, when like a lot of people starting out in the hair business, you know, message me like they see like, you know, oh, like how did you get so far? How did you, you know, how did you build yourself? And they always ask me, like, they say they're hesitating because there are so many people in the industry, and I always tell them, like, Hashem, like, you know, set aside your parnasa from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, and that's it. Like, my mother always tells me, like, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. Your set, you know, salary is gonna come to you, whether it's from the garbage can or whether it's from anywhere. Like, it's yours. Nobody can take it away from you, and that's it. So I always tell them, like, believe in yourself, work hard, because at the end of the day, like, there's room for everybody to grow, and I really, really believe it. Like, I really do.
yeah. And I think that's so important to believe. Like, and I wonder, you know, in like your own bullying experience, like where people were mean to you, like maybe there was something that was threatening, you know, to them that like they just didn't want to give you the space to kind of shine and let people see who you were and whatever it is. Like a lot of the time, again, that's where that bullying comes from, like a threat, feeling threatened. Like if I give you space to shine, you're going to do better than me. So I'm going to bash your brand. I'm going to tell you you're horrible. I'm going to make up lies about you. I'm going to say that your, you know, skirts are made of garbage when that's not really the reality, you know. And that comes from that feeling threatened and also thinking like, oh, they're not going to have the guts to stand up to me. They're not going to call me out on Instagram when I send that nasty message. Um, and so I say also, sometimes if someone does that, like, I don't think people should hesitate to repost that message with the person's name. If you're going to have the chutzpah to send me that message, like, I have no problem adding you,
I
right?
mean,
That's
the least I do sometimes when I get hate, I like block the name, you know? Like,
right.
I don't know, you know, but you're right. I mean, listen, like, if you have the audacity and, like, just the guts to message me about something, like, the other week, I had a baby 4 months ago, and I, like, for myself, you know, just eating the right food and just working out gives me the time and space just for my mental health. Like, my goal was never weight loss ever, but I posted my meal prep, and a few people messaged me like, you're promoting negative body image. And I actually spoke to Shira from Swaddleby. I love her, and she was telling me, like, you're not using the word diet. Like, I'm not saying go and diet, and, you know, I'm not promoting an unhealthy lifestyle. Like, that's not what I'm doing. But anybody, I feel like, will just take any chance to just, like, jab at you, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just
I mean, I
crazy.
think part of that also comes from, and this is part of why this is something that actually is something that contributes to bullying is like lack of education. So I
Right.
think that's a perfect example of like a lack of education. Like dieting doesn't own meal prep. You cannot be dieting and prep your meals. That's an act of self-care, especially if you have a baby and you want to
And
make
I
sure
come home crazy
that
hours. Like, I come home crazy hours. So, like, for me, like, for my own, like, you know, just to be calm and whatever, if my food was ready in the fridge for me and I just popped it in the microwave, that gives me sanity. But
yeah,
like, automatically people are thinking, like, you're promoting unhealthy dieting, you're promoting weight loss, you're not happy with your body image. Like, my body carried a child. I'm happy with my body. Trust me. Like, you
right.
know, but it's just crazy. Like, I feel like maybe anybody with a platform, whatever they'll post, you know, sometimes there are just people that feel a need to just jab at you with
Yeah.
comments.
I think people get defensive and you know it brings stuff up in them that they don't want to like think about or they don't want to face or they don't want to you know change in themselves. So instead of like actually introspecting and being like, like maybe this is something that could have some truth to it, or hey, maybe that's a different way of thinking, they just want to reject it straight out and be like, oh, look at you promoting dieting. Look at you, empowering women by saying not to post a black and white picture of yourself. Look at you, saying, when really in reality, we're just saying, we just want you to think, or I just want to show you how I take care of myself. My life is hectic. I don't want to just like throw a Pop-Tart in the oven when I come home. I want to feed myself. That makes me feel good. I mean, maybe you do want to Pop-Tart, but
And
you
sometimes
want to
I
make,
do, and I
yeah,
do.
and then you do.
Why
But
not?
right. But if you want to make sure that like you're eating in a way that makes you feel balanced and good and healthy and I mean healthy in a holistic way, not healthy in like a diety way,
Yeah.
you're allowed. Like diets don't own meal prep. And that's actually something that we talk about a lot with intuitive eating and health at every size is like dieting does not own meal prep. It doesn't own salad. It doesn't own, more nutrient rich foods. Like just because you're not dieting doesn't mean you only eat ice cream and potato chips. It could mean that you have a salad for lunch, but it's just, where does that come from, right? You can choose the more nutritious, protein filled, fiber filled pasta over the regular one. But where is that coming from? Is that coming from being afraid of regular pasta or because you want to do this as an act of self-care? But again, when people aren't educated and they don't know and they have this black and white thinking, or you're challenging something that they have always known that they're so uncomfortable with thinking of differently, that's where they can start getting aggressive and bullying and trying to shut you up because they don't want to think differently. And that's why I say you've got to exercise those boundaries then on your page of saying like, I don't have to answer to you. And something I once saw, and this is the line I use all the time. I saw this on another therapist. Her name is Nedra Tawab. I'm sure a lot of you follow her. I saw this on her page and I quote her religiously. She once said, like, I don't have to sell you my content. Like, it's not my job to convince you to like what I post, I'm going to share what I want to share. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, I'm glad to hear your feedback if it's respectful. And if it's not, like I said, I'm not going to respond to you, right? So just remembering that, like on your page, you are here to sell whatever you are selling. You are here to share whatever you're sharing. It doesn't mean that we don't have to be responsible and that we shouldn't be thoughtful and mindful about what we share and is it harming people and is it something that is helpful? Like we do need to think about the impact that we make on people for sure and how we take up space in this Instagram world. But I don't have to sell myself to you. I don't have to convince you that my opinions are right. I don't want to convince you that my opinions are right. They're just that. They're my opinions. So if you don't like them, that's okay, right? And that's part of empowerment also, that you have the right to decide what makes you feel good and what makes you feel bad or what you don't like. And I think it would be bullying of me to try to force my opinions on you by chasing after you and commenting on every single one of your posts and telling you you're wrong and telling you you're stupid and telling people not to listen to you and, sharing stories and tagging you and writing bad things about you. That would be bullying. But we could just step back and say, all right, so I don't love everything she posts or I don't love anything she posts, so I'm just going to unfollow her, right? I don't need to hate follow someone, right? That's something I've talked about also, like following people that you can't stand and just continuing to follow them. Like, why are you going to give yourself an ulcer
It's
over?
like torture to yourself also, like from
Yeah,
us,
like you're not hurting anyone but yourself.
Mhm.
So I think that we just need to be more boundaried and just more thoughtful about how we show up and what we say to people when we're on social media.
I
And
know,
I think that
like,
yeah,
because you were bringing up empowering, the last question about which I think is super important, but how can we how can we start making a difference in how we treat each other, and what are different ways we can empower one another and just be there for each other? Because like I was saying on my stories today, with everything going on in the world, and I'm not just talking about Jew to Jew, I'm talking about, us as women. Like, it upsets me so much because I feel like we're all trying so hard to hustle, to take care of whatever business we have, but then we're trying to side hustle and whatever, and then all the negativity we're getting, like, it sidetracks you and it puts you down. So, like, I just feel like we need certain tips on how to lift each other up and how to be there for each other, because I really feel like we got, like, we're supposed to have each other. I don't know, maybe it's like a little whatever, but I just feel like, what could we do to just lift one another instead of putting one another down?
right. So I think that it's really important to, some of the ideas that I was giving today actually on my page were that we should like share each other's content. We should like each other's posts, right? We should support each other's businesses. We should stand up for people, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be in such a public way. It could just be sending a message of support to someone in a DM, saying, hey, I saw your story, like, thank you so much for what you said, or like, I love what you're posting lately, or awesome content, or you're always so authentic. Like, just sending people nice messages to tell them that you appreciate them. It doesn't have to be such a public, like, tag your favorite account. Like, I don't love those because they're actually really not so empowering because it always leaves something out and hurts people's feelings. But send a message. I appreciate so much everything you post, and you're inspiring and you're fantastic. And, doing that, liking people's posts and commenting on them, shopping with them, especially like if you have a similar business, like shopping with them, or if you're booked, like referring referring to that person and saying like, hey, like I'm busy, but I know someone who's incredible, like saying people's names in a room where there's opportunity, like say people's names. Hey, I know someone else who would be amazing for this job, or who could make this even greater, who would be such a good addition to this panel or to this committee or to this event. Like really giving other people opportunities too to grow and to be successful. I think that also helps, by the way, us to feel more secure when we don't feel threatened by other people and we help create opportunities for other people.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah. So I think that we're going to be less negative when we're doing that.
I remember when I first started doing hair and used Instagram as like a business tool, I would reach out to like a lot of people, and a lot of times I got ignored, a lot of times, and it was hurtful. It was really hurtful because I just feel like I'm a woman that's trying to make it, and you have already made it. And I know it's not your responsibility to help me out. I understand. But even just like one kind word, like it goes such a long way. It really does. Like people don't realize like one kind word, a like, a heart, a message, just anything goes it goes such a long way. So I really like, I hope to always just remember, where I started, because everybody started at the bottom. Nobody started up there, and just we should always just try to help one another and just, support each other instead of being threatened or, I know it's a whole other topic, but, just the whole empowerment, to help one another instead of feeling threatened that they would maybe take your business away or anything like that,
I think it's the same topic. And I think that, something that Yafa Palti here said in the comments, she said, you can be successful when you stay in your lane, focus on your own content or product, and be the best you can be instead of comparing yourself to what the next account is doing. And I think that's perfect. That's what it is. Like, of course, we want to see what other people are up to, and as a way to kind of grow ourselves, right? There's this whole idea of comparison. There's this social comparison theory in psychology, and it says people just like we innately compare ourselves to people to gauge like what we're doing in life. So there's two kinds of comparison though. There's that upward comparison, which is when I look at your account and I'm like looking for inspiration. How is she doing so well? What does she do? What's her trick? How does she engage? What's her style? What is it that she's doing that I can learn from? And then there's that downward comparison, which is where I might start like trying to like bash you and be like, oh, she's such a loser. Oh, she's so annoying. Oh, she's so self-centered. She's so shallow. To try to make myself feel better. Oh, people like me better. I'm more real than her. Right? So we want to be people who kind of use that upward comparison, that when we're looking at people, again, notice if you're feeling insecure or threatened and say like, okay, clearly there's something here that like, I feel that there may be stronger in a certain area. So maybe instead of feeling bad about myself and feeling like inadequate, maybe I can say, hey, is this something that I can try for myself? Is this something that I can learn from? Maybe I can even reach out to them and ask for advice. You know how many therapists will reach out to me? How did you start your practice? How do you do what you do on Instagram? How do you decide? And I'm so happy to help them. And I'm so glad when they ask. Like, of course I want to show what I'm learning along the way or support them, So I think that's really important. And I think even as someone in a business, like for you to have that mindset of like, I want to help other people. If they ask me, I'm not going to feel like, oh, I'm not going to share my secrets with you because you're going to try to steal my business. And
Right.
you know, obviously, you don't give them all the inside
Of
whatever.
course not. I mean, listen, I pay for all my techniques, you know?
Right.
But
So
of course, if you're asking me like what product I'm using or how I did this look or whatever, you know, I remember when I was first starting out, there were certain hairstylists that literally videoed an entire hairstyle on how to do it and showed me, you know? Like, I mean, besides for me feeling so grateful, I'm sure they felt amazing. Why not? Why not share something, just something, you know? I don't think it ever hurts.
totally. And I always say like also like let's say you have 20,000 followers, you can't do 20,000 faces, you know what I
No,
mean? Or 20,000 heads of hair. Like
of
there's
course.
so much business to go around that again, like if you're building your business through Instagram, like and you have followers, like it doesn't hurt to share other businesses that are trying to grow too, because you're only one person. And even if you're not only one person, like how big do you want to be that you want 50,000 people coming to you? Like it's okay, you know, like
Right.
that's something to have in mind also. Like, what do I want my business to look like? Like, do I want, 10,000 therapy clients? Not at all. Like, I just want 15 a week. Like, that's all I can handle mentally, you know?
Right,
I'm
right.
not looking for that. Like, what is my goal here? So I'm so happy to like share other therapist content and talk about other therapists who are out there, or when someone contacts me to say, hey, I'm not taking clients, but I know this amazing person who I trust and will give you, it's not a competition. Certainly in therapy, it's not a competition. Like there's so much, unfortunately, to go around. But I think that we can think that in any business also, there's so much business to go around.
There is so much, yes.
There's that element of faith, like we were saying, like whatever I'm supposed to have will come to me.
Of course.
And also, believing in yourself, right? Believing like that you're good enough and whatever you're offering
Yes.
is valuable, that people will want to come to you, you know?
Yes.
Um, but I wonder also, like, if you're not feeling good about yourself, again, like, you're not going to believe
People
that.
could see it. Like, I feel like, you know, even just, you know, when you're working with people in general, like, people pick up on your mood, you know? And sometimes, like, I talk to a lot of people about this, you know, people will want to come to you if you're a good vibe, you know, like, if you're good to, like, just to talk to you and whatever, they like the pleasantness of who you are, I guess, as a person, you know? So, just think good and positive about yourself and it'll definitely show, you know, and it'll only bring good, I feel like.
Yeah. And it radiates. And I think that just also like the honesty, like the transparency, like with your sharing also, like talking about being kinder to people and like your own experiences, like
Yeah.
being mistreated growing up and like what it did for you in terms of what it taught you, which actually, if you want to share a little bit more, I think that everyone could really benefit from it.
I mean, yeah,
Just like,
sure. I would. So, I mean, when so from our conversation, I kind of have questions about maybe why I was bullied. But when I was younger, I was bullied really severely, like emotionally, mentally, physically, like physically even, which is a crazy thing because I was in fourth grade and like people were beating me up. You know, it's sad. I mean, I'm laughing now because just whatever, but it's sad, you know? And I remember
crazy.
asking my teachers like why didn't you stop them? Like why didn't you help me? Like I asked the teachers and later on I realized like my teacher was only 18. Like what was she going to do, you know? You know, like what was she gonna do? There was nothing she could have done. But even, you know, I I ended up going to a different school, and like I said before, you know, people from my old school knew people from my new school, and in my new school I was only in a class of 6 girls.
Oh,
So can
wow.
you imagine a new girl coming in and people from my old school literally writing letters, giving them to girls in my new school and handing it to me, you know? And it really, I just a lot happened. And the last 2 years of high school, I guess like something in my life turned around and the teachers loved me. They literally loved me. I don't know why, but they just loved me and my confidence just got stronger. And then I actually went around to, I was in a very small school, so I went around to the elementary school and I tried to do this anti-bullying thing, and girls in my school knew, like, go to Chaya, like, talk to her about it. I tried so hard to stand up for the bullies, but I'm only one person, and I know it sounds bad, but like, how much could I have
Yeah,
done already? You know, I
right.
tried, but I just feel like I said, just like I always wanted to know, why did people bully me? Why? Because of what? Like, what were they gaining out of it? You know, and now that I'm older, thank God, and I moved past that life. You know, I'm super sensitive to any of like these kinds of things. You know, but I learned from it. I guess I learned how to treat people. You know, how to think about myself, how to uplift myself. It's really important. So thank God, like I'm sure I was affected, but again, like I said, like I worked really hard on building myself up again, and I just want people to be less, you know, less of a bully on Instagram and through DM. And that's why I reached out to you, because I'm just so sensitive to this topic that it hurts me. And like, it's funny because so many people talk to me about their problems. And like I said before, besides for the fact that, like, you know, you sit down in my chair and of course, like, I'm all ears, talk to me, you know,
Yeah.
no judgment,
The
nothing.
therapist.
But I hear it all. I hear it all. And it's just so sad because why hate? Why? What what are you getting out of it? What, like, I just don't understand it. I till this day I just don't understand why people need to hate. Like wouldn't you feel better about yourself if you uplift one another? If you it's just, it makes me a better person when I compliment somebody
Yeah.
as
For some
opposed
people,
to
that being negative is like their default. Like it's kind of like how they've been trained to think. I don't think there's such a thing as like negative people. I think that people are just sometimes more inclined. I think it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive. I think that's just
for
human
sure,
nature.
for sure.
But I think
Yeah.
some people are just kind of used to always like looking for the downside. And it takes work to try to see differently, you know? And again, if you're not feeling so great about yourself, it's a lot harder to find the good in people, you know, when you're not feeling so great. And like we can even just think about that, like even like from a like just a general like life perspective, like if you're in a bad mood, like you know that the things that your friends do or that your kids do will annoy you more when you're in a bad mood than
Or
when you're in a
yeah.
good mood. Like you're able to overlook or laugh or whatever when your kids are fighting. When you're in a bad mood, you can't stand it, you know? So I think that just like knowing that sometimes like people just don't feel happy or are just again like just used to just being negative and not seeing the good, it that's kind of like what gets people to stay in that like funky place of like not being able to be supported and not being able to, you know, be inspired by people and not being able to like reach out and say something nice to someone, or even again, even if you disagree with someone, to reach out and be like, hey, like I so appreciate that you're having this discussion, like can I share my thoughts, like here's what I'm thinking, you know? And I actually had a lot of that today in my messages, like really respectful discussion that I totally appreciated. And I saw a lot of people's perspective, and I totally get that there's like more than one way to see all of this stuff. And I love that. I really love hearing other people's points of view and thoughts when it's done in a respectful way. And that's why I think for us, like the way to protect ourselves and even to protect our kids is to teach like assertiveness, to teach boundaries, to teach um, to teach our kids to be confident, to give ourselves that confidence, to, you know, follow therapists on Instagram who talk about personal boundaries and how to respond to people that are cruel to you, or even just what to think about the people that are cruel to you, like how you can conceptualize them so that you don't take it so personally. Like
Right.
it's not about you, it's really about them.
About them, of course.
Yeah. And I think just even like having compassion in your head, you don't have to have compassion to them if you don't want to engage with them, but just saying, like, wow, you must really be going through something difficult if you had to sit here and take 5 minutes of your time and type on your keyboard that really disgusting message or that horrible, nasty comment, or to take the time to send something mean about me to someone else, like a my story with gossip, you know, in a
Oh my
DM. Oh,
God.
posting now, right? Like,
That
look at this.
happens too often. That happens too often. Where they by mistake send it to you. Does that ever
Oh,
happen? Like, it happens too often, you know, and I just like laugh, you know?
so it's never happened to me, but I know that it's happened to friends of mine who have accounts and businesses where they're like, oh, look at her. And they're like, you're
Yeah.
actually sending it to me,
Yeah.
you know? So, and that's like, wow, embarrassing. I hope it's embarrassing for the person that did it,
I'm
but
sure it is.
yeah, I really feel sad for you, and not in a condescending way. I genuinely feel sad for you if you have to take energy out of your day to waste your time on me, telling me that I'm annoying, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm an idiot, I'm shallow, I'm a liar. Like, that makes me very sad that there's nothing else going on in your life, or that there's not more useful things you can do with your energy than to send hate to me. And I think that that builds up your confidence also, just by the way, in learning how to just not let that bully get under your skin,
For sure.
by saying like, this is really a reflection of you and what you're lacking, and not what I'm doing wrong necessarily, And again, not saying that our words don't have impact and that we should just be like, oh, sorry for you, loser, that you don't like what I'm saying. Like, of course, we need to be aware of how we speak and what we are putting out there. And if we are offending people, or not being careful about what we say, or not being very informed or responsible, we need to pay attention to that. But if it's really harmless and you're just promoting your business and you're just, like, showing like the things that make you feel good and your acts of self-care, and you're not promoting anything harmful, then I don't think that you have to pay attention to that negativity. And if, sometimes it bothers us because then we start doubting ourselves, like, shoot, maybe I did do something wrong. Maybe showing what I'm planning for my meals is diet culture-y, but then
I
you can
did.
reach out.
Like you do. You doubt yourself. You literally
Yeah,
doubt yourself. Because, I mean, personally, I don't want to put anything negative on my page. Like,
right.
don't. And, like, so sorry. But, yeah, so you do. I doubt myself. And, that's where my mentors come in and, replace my,
Yeah.
they tell
I
me, like,
think
it's okay,
that's, yeah. And I think that's such a good point. Like, reach out to a friend then when you get a message like
It's
that.
so important to have
Like,
mentors, I feel like.
yeah, have your support network.
Of
Reach
course.
out to someone and be like, look at this message I got. Not in a gossipy way.
No,
Look
no.
at this message I got. Like, am I wrong here? Like, am I reading into this? Did I miss something? Like, ask for that feedback, to get support of like, oh, you know what, here's maybe what they might be thinking, or is it worth responding to this? Or should I leave this alone? Or should I address this? Like, getting feedback from someone who's objective, who really is on your team and supports you and understands like what your purpose is here. I think that's a really important point, just like ask people for that like objective feedback, before you start saying like, oh, what a bully, again, it also just depends how they're messaging you and what they're saying. Um, but also, like I said, being introspective and thinking about like, okay, maybe there is a point to what they're saying. Let me think about that. But most of the time, I would say you really don't have to, and put up that boundary of like, when you see that message like negative, like, delete, not accepting it, not engaging with it. When you see that comment in your post, you can delete it. It's your page. You can do whatever you want. And who cares? Oh, you're deleting comments? Yep, I'm deleting comments.
It's my right. My
Here,
page.
yeah, I don't want you bullying my followers, and I don't want you bullying me. Like, and I'm unapologetic about it. So I think taking back your power, owning it, having that confidence, being assertive, having boundaries, and again, just kind of examining if you're feeling bad about something, if you're feeling jealous, not beating yourself up about it and being like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm so jealous. I'm such a loser. I hate that I feel jealous of her, so I hate her even more. This is part of the human condition. Jealousy is communication for me. Let me just think about like, maybe I can do something good with this jealousy. Maybe I can reach out to her and ask her, hey, like, I love what you're doing. Like, I'm trying to do something similar. Can you give me some advice? Or, from one clothing person to another, from one hairstylist to another, where'd you learn? And just like helping people grow. I think that would create so much camaraderie and so much more support and so much more empowerment, true empowerment of women on Instagram, not just a picture of like me and then tagging you, like
For sure.
really reaching out
Here's
and like,
empowering women.
yeah, taking action and progress of like making real change and really helping women get to a better place where there's room for everybody to have something good, you
Yes.
know? So I think that we covered all our questions. I'm
Really.
looking.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It
Conversation.
was such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions. It was
Thank
really
you.
helpful, really educating as well. Thank you.
Thank you for initiating it. And I'm going to save this on on my
Yeah,
page.
amazing.
And thanks so much.
Thank you. It was so good talking to you.
You too.
See
Have a good
you.
night.
You too. Good night.